So, hello everybody. It's my turn to offer up a theme to this deeper view, and I'd like to share one that's both dear to my heart and tender, the shadow of shining. And I bet I'm not the only one who's ever struggled or had a mixed relationship with shining or standing out or being seen. So I'm really hoping that our conversation about this today will not only feel supportive to me, but to other people as well. So to get us warmed up as a group so we can dive into this exploration together, I'd like to start by sharing some thoughts that I've had on this subject. And then I'll share a few questions for our group to explore together and for everybody who's watching to explore together with us. If there's time, I'm thinking I will pick a card from the Wisdom Keeper's Oracle deck to shine a light on the shadow of shining. And I'd love to share the story of the Wisdom Keeper with you and her gift of wisdom for all of us. So either I'll do it here, or if there isn't time, I'll just find a way to share her story and wisdom with you after this segment. Okay, so my greatest intention here is for all of us to get a deeper view on our relationship to shining and how we can support each other in being our fully expressed, authentic selves, even when it's scary. And this feels really important now at a time in our world when everybody's voice is needed more than ever. So we may experience the shadow of shining in different ways or with different levels of intensity, but I do have a feeling, given my years of experience as a human being and friend and counselor, that a lot of us have our own stories and challenges when it comes to speaking up and being seen and to shining and sharing our knowledge or our truth. A lot of us carry the fear of not being good enough. I know I do, of showing up and speaking up and finding out that we're too little or we're not articulate enough or we're not prepared enough or polished enough or not intelligent enough or not comprehensive enough. And just as many of us, even though it may be unconscious for some of us, carry the fear of being too good, as Marianne Williamson stated so beautifully in her famous quote. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Now, I've also seen so many people have the fear that if we share our light, truth, creativity, power, or joy with the world, we're going to be judged, persecuted, burned at the stake. Others might perceive us as a threat or a competition. They might think that we're being too much or we're sucking the air out of the room, that we're vain, that we're self-serving. Especially women get this kind of conditioning. Some of us are terrified we're going to lose our cherished relationships if we dare stand out or speak out, if we think or feel differently than the ones that we love, that something bad is going to happen. That's a really big one. Even when something really good is happening for us in the moment, if we're having, let's say, like a positive experience of shining or succeeding in a visible way, we can feel terrified of the other shoe dropping, right? That we're going to be discovered as imposters, or that we're going to fall off some pedestal, or we're going to make some unforgivable mistake, that we won't be able to survive our fall from grace, whether it's emotionally or even financially. So a lot of us carry a combination of these fears. I know that I do, that's for sure. And we end up either choosing to stay hidden and we kind of watch what's unfolding in the world, wishing that we could make a contribution, but we're too scared to stick our necks out. Or we come out with our light, our opinions, our gifts in a way that leaves us feeling kind of vulnerable or unreceived or unheard or like we're too much. Or we kind of come out and then we withdraw and we contract, and we come out and we contract. Or we find some way to sabotage ourselves and our attempt to build some momentum to share our light with the world with some kind of a interference pattern, or even through illness. And some of us get so paralyzed with the fear of being visible or not good enough that we spend our whole lives like obsessed with self-development and the self-improvement process. And one opportunity after the other passes us by where we could actually be helpful to somebody if we just dared to show up, even if we're showing up imperfectly. But we stand by and we watch, and we're just too terrified of misusing our power, so we never use it, even when we should, even when we're needed. And for some of us, it's kind of like refusing to rescue somebody who's drowning because we're afraid of how we're going to look in our bathing suit. Oh boy, that one hits really close to home for me. So anyway, I'm bringing this theme up today because it's so connected to the most important but painful lesson that I've had to learn in my life. And even though there are people who know me or of me and they think, oh yeah, it's super easy for Rosy to put herself out there, put her work out there. But it isn't. You know, the fear of visibility of what might happen to me or people I love if I shine, or if someone else shines a light on me, has really been one of the biggest shadows and fears of my life. And I've come a long way. And ironically, financial stress has really forced me to be more courageous than I probably would if I didn't have this fear. But it's still so present for me and raw. And even in this group, a group of women I love and feel safe with, who I trust and I know love and support me, you know, even with you guys, this wound came up just a couple of weeks ago when we were having one of our meetings, and a situation arose where a suggestion was made by one of you that we come together in a particular way to support the launching of my most recent book. And even though all of you love and support me and what I do in the world, the particular suggestion just didn't sit right with a few of you, and you were brave enough to say it out loud. And I know that it took a lot of courage, and so the suggestion was dropped. And so the adult part of me completely understood and actually totally agreed with the people who didn't feel comfortable with the suggestion. But it also made me feel really uncomfortable, right? There was the other part that felt so, first of all, so grateful to the one who made the suggestion in the first place, because I knew she was coming from a deep understanding of how much I struggle asking for support in this way, and she really wanted to help me break through my fear around shining. So I felt really seen and supported by her, but I also felt like mortified by the thought that anyone, especially you guys, would think that, you know, I would use you to do something on my behalf or make you feel uncomfortable, or, you know, just, oh my God, it's the worst thing I can imagine, being seen as self-serving, especially by people that I love. And then on top of that, I also felt like really ashamed that I even feel as like that I need as much support as I do. So while the group was processing this whole situation, there was another part of me watching all of my oldest, most oppressive beliefs just kind of rising to the surface. The belief that if I take too much space, people I care about will be hurt or feel dominated, oppressed, offended, that I'll be seen as too much, that whatever love or generosity that is in the seed of anything I ever want to offer the world anyway, it won't be felt. That I'll end up alone, ashamed, disconnected from the people I care about. Oh my God, it was such a powerful experience for me to have, especially in a setting where I felt so safe in the past. And I'm grateful that it came up here with you, because I know my vulnerability is safe in your hands. And even more importantly, I'm learning, this is forcing me to learn how to be safe in my own hands. So one thing I notice in situations like this, when I get triggered in this way, is I get this urge to crawl back into the cave where I've spent so much of my childhood and adulthood. Like this impulse to apologize gets really strong. I want to make sure everybody knows, oh my God, you know, I've never wanted to dominate or misuse you. You know, I can feel my whole body contracting. My mind starts scheming about how I can make sure this never happens again. You know, I promise myself I'm never going to mention anything that I'm doing to the people, you know, that I might have offended. I make this decision. I'm not going to ask for help anymore. I totally go into service mode. I try to make sure everybody else feels heard and seen and supported and respected. And I don't only try to avoid, but like I discourage people from shining a light on me or what I do, even when it's offered and everyone's actually in agreement about it. So again, I'm bringing this up in our group and to everybody here who's listening, because I trust that I'm not the only one in the world who struggles with this issue, you know, though I'm sure, like I said before, our stories are different. And I also do this because we're really living in a world right now where we're needed. You know, where we can't afford to shrink or make ourselves small if we have something to offer. And I'm sure everybody watching does. I know everyone in this group does. Even when we're not perfect, or what we do makes someone uncomfortable, or people don't like it. You know, in any way, anytime we allow our voice to be heard, whether it's to share something that we've created, like a book, or to say, you know what, I love you, Rosy, and I want to support you, but this way of supporting you in your shining just doesn't feel right to me. Like either way, we're having to be brave. Either way, it's all about speaking out and standing out. And We all need permission to go there, even when it's scary, even when we're surrounded by people who don't get us or people that we really, really love and feel safe by, right? Oh my God. So anyway, so I see this group, this deeper view, as an experiment in moving through the shadow of shining together. We're here to find ways to support each other in showing up as ourselves, as human beings, even when there's friction or dissonance, or we don't agree, or we feel too little, or we feel too much, and somehow to hang in there together when it gets uncomfortable. And remember that we love each other, and to develop trust muscles in the fact that our love for each other, even in our differences, is going to carry us through. So if we in this group, and everyone watching this in the groups that they're a part of, can do this, then maybe our world has half a chance at finding common ground, at healing the divisiveness that seems to be everywhere, while still honoring our uniqueness. So I came up with 3 possible streams of inquiry for us to dive in together about the shadow of shining. And I'm thinking I'm just going to share the 3 questions or lines of questions here so we get a lay of the land. And then we'll just trust whatever unfolds will be what's supposed to unfold as we each respond to what feels most relevant to us or whatever we feel inspired by in each other's sharing. That's what this group is good at. So the first stream of inquiry is this. In what ways do you learn to hide your light? Where or when in your life have you shown up as smaller or less than who you know that you really are? Where do you still hold back? And when you hide your light, what are you most afraid of? How about this? Can you think of a time when you felt like you were actually experienced as too much, too bright, too successful, too powerful, too loud, when your light or your speaking out took up too much space or had a negative or hurtful impact on someone that you cared about, or ended up putting you in an unsafe or uncomfortable position? And how did you cope with that experience? What did you learn from being too much? And then finally, can you think of a time when you experienced someone else as being too much, when their shining brought up your own discomfort or jealousy or insecurity? And how did you deal with these moments? How do you deal with it when you can feel that you're not able to fully celebrate someone else's light because of a shadow that you're dealing with internally?